So I thought I'd bring a few more props and make it a little bit easier for you to understand what I was talking about before. Now remember, my evaluator, Monica, said she wanted to see an original piece of wood, what a board looks like, to make a jewelry box. And this is an example of the jewelry box I'm talking about. So here's a board. Usually you buy one that's wide enough to make the top if you want to make the top out of the same material like this is. Actually, this box is smaller because of the width of the board. I could only make the top this big, so I had to make the box around the top. So here's a piece of wood. This is called Goncalo alves. It's also called tiger wood. Easier name to remember. It is the smoothest, easiest wood to work with. And I have worked with this before. This particular piece isn't too interesting, but it's still very colorful. And I could make it, in fact the one I did make, with a top, out of curly maple. So let's say this is the box. The first thing we'll assume is that the box, the wood is nice and square here and nice and flat top and bottom. I'm not going to go into detail about that. This is my table saw. This is my blade. So the first thing we would do is run the board like this. That's a rip cut. Through the blade to the right width, in this case 4 inches, and we would end up with, this is only 3 inches, but we would end up with a board something like this. Now, we make this into 2 13-inch and 2 9-inch wide pieces. Actually a little bit longer because you want to trim them up to be exactly the same size. So then, we'd have 4 pieces. These aren't exactly the same, but you get the idea. So you'll have 4 pieces, 13 inches by 9 inches. The next thing to do is to put grooves in the 4 pieces, or you can do them in the 1 piece before you cut it all up. One for the bottom. This is actually a box I'm making right now. This is called Pau Ferro Rosewood. This is gorgeous. Make a groove for the bottom, and it's about 1/4 inch. And let's say this is my bottom material. Now this looks really pretty and nice, bright cherry. It's plastic, or it's fake. It's veneer. It's fake. Well, it is a veneer on top. I think it's actually wood on top, but it would look really good on the bottom, and if this were on the inside, it wouldn't matter because you're going to put a piece of felt in it, velvet. So that's the bottom groove, about 1/4 inch. You'd have to make sure that it slides. And then in the middle, there's another groove for the tray, if you have a tray. Now, I have been told by my husband not to bother with a tray for guys, for which I am grateful, because this is a whole speech, making this stupid little tray. So you have to have a groove inside for the tray support. So you got your 2 grooves. See what I mean? Get your 2 grooves, and now you want to cut your boards to give them a 45. And the way you do that is you take this cool little 45-degree tool, and you set your blade so it's at 45 degrees. Now how the heck do I do this? Nope. You get the idea. Let's see.
There you go.
You want the blade to tip in toward the center?
Actually, never. Never. If it depends on where your your fence is, but you don't ever want to trap the piece of wood in between your fence and the blade. You want it out this way. So you can have it this way, or you can have it this way, but not in between set your blade at 45 degrees, and you have a stop block over on this side, so that they're exactly the same length. So you, two of them, the two 9-inch ones are the same length, and the two 13-inch ones. Now, they don't have to be exactly 13 inches, but they have to be the same length as each other, so they make a nice square. And if they don't, trust me, it's happened to me, these miters don't look very good. And then if you make a miter around this, you have to look at the way these go too. So once you've got your 4 pieces made, then you glue them all together. And we actually just use blue tape to hold them together. You glue your 4 pieces all together, and you have your basic, oh, you gotta put the bottom in too. Your 4 pieces with the bottom, and then you have your basic box. The next thing you do is you put the decorative splines in there. They're not just decorative, they make the miter corners, which is a very weak joint, they make them stronger, so that you can do things like curve the edges. So the splines are made out of thin materials like this, a contrasting color. The blade is about 1/8 of an inch, so you want to make this 1/8 of an inch thick. And you cut them by, let's say this blade is up here, and you run it through on a 45 on a special jig. This, and your fence is here, so you run it through, I don't know, you guys on the back side can't see. And you turn it around, and then you pound these things in those holes. And I've got to stop right here, and I'll have to tell you part 2 in the next speech if you want to hear it. Fellow Toastmasters.